like really great things.
Yeah.
I guess one of our purposes today is to explore whether or not Alfie got it from you.
Yeah. Since I found out about autism, I mean, I didn't know anything about it until we realised that he had it, or probably had it. So all the warning signs reminds me of what I was told. I was like, at his age, almost everything.
It's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I actually have a list of, when we think about making that diagnosis.
Yeah.
It's 4 different things, but the classic pattern is the front part of their brain works too hard. And that's with the obsessionality. Their right temporal lobe is sleepy, and yours is. I mean, that was pretty clear. And their cerebellum is small, especially in the middle. When we look at your temporal lobe, it's hurt. I see this on one side, and then you have these dings here in the back. To me, that's trauma.
Right.
Let's hold on you for a second.
Yeah.
What about your mother or your father when you think of autistic traits?
My mum's side has a lot of like obsessive engineering type of people. I don't know much about my granddad on my mum's side, but I know he was an engineer, pretty obsessive, very focused, not that social.
And your uncle, Edward, who is an engineer, taught you how to code when you were like a kid.
Yeah, but the big thing that I realised is that I was incredibly antisocial as a little boy. I'd be traumatised if I was forced to play with other kids. I didn't know anything about autism, but when I started researching, I was like, oh wait, Alfie's like this and I was exactly like this. That was one of the first things. And my mum even said she bought him a toy car and she sent it to us, and she was like, called me and said, Alfie will probably turn it over and spin the wheels for hours, just like you did. And then I was like, oh my god, that's an autism sign. I used to collect fluff from the carpet, put it in matchboxes, and have it very neatly arranged in the cupboard, and I would get incredibly upset if anyone touched my collection of fluff.
Don't touch my fluff. A huge similarity is that rigidity that you were talking about.
Yes.
And so Alfie has his way that he loves to go on the walk, and if we try and go a different street, it's like, right? Because he goes his way on this street and that street, and he's got all the trees that he explores before he can go to this house. Yeah. Stephen was the exact same. His mom said he would only go one way, and if she tried to go another way, it was chaos. She had to put you on a leash when you were a toddler because you would elope. Yeah. And I feel terrible because I judged her, like, how dare you put my husband on a leash? But now I understand. Right. She was just trying to keep you alive, and a lot of kids with autism will elope and they'll run off into a busy street.
Yeah, it's also an ADD thing.
Oh,
and I have a hyperactive daughter who's now 34 almost. So what I used to do is put her in her stroller and tie her shoes together so she couldn't get out. And I think she's still a little bitter about it.
Yeah.
But as a parent, your resting heart rate is always elevated.
Yeah. That being said, I'll say Alfie is getting better at holding the stroller and walking.
He's getting good.
He can learn, like you can learn.
Yes. Yeah.
It's that structure of helping him be social so he won't get depressed.
Right.
Because you got depressed.
Absolutely.
Then you ended up medicating your depression.
Yeah.
And we want to protect him. That way it takes your experience and makes it incredibly meaningful to help someone you love virtually more than anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? He was like, he will not have the same experience that I had.
Yeah.
How about biting the noses off all his stuffed animals? And Stephen used to do that with all his stuffed animals. Like, so specific.
But the big one is that I had so many meltdowns when I was a toddler that my mum and dad didn't have any more kids because I was such a nightmare. I mean, I don't think they even knew in the 70s in England autism. No one really knew what it was, I don't think.
And they think it's a genetic, environmental interaction.
Was he not born with it, Alfie?
He probably was born with the vulnerability, and there's also probably something in the environment that triggered it. And we're in this chemical soup, all of us are, right? So I don't want you to go, oh, I caused this. We just want to get his brain as healthy as he can, and that's where things like hyperbaric oxygen and saunas and supplements.
If it's environmental toxins, how is it that Stephen and him were literally the exact same as toddlers.
The genes probably are a significant component. What's your mom like? Tell me about your mom.
She doesn't really have any of those traits, right?
She's obsessive around cleaning.
She is a bit OCD.
How is she at reading social cues?
I would say she's good at it, yeah.
And how's her language?
Good.
And how about your dad?
Very similar to me. He gets depression, he's pretty obsessive. He's got that dark Irish melancholy thing where he's like fine one day and then sort of depressed the next. When he was a kid in Ireland, they didn't have running water or enough food. They were super poor, and he came to England at 15 with his brother and just literally went from having nothing. His name was Sean Murphy. When he first came to England, all jobs and all boarding houses and places where you could rent rooms, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish, it would say. So you couldn't get a room and you couldn't get a job. So one day he's like, I'm changing my name. Sean Murphy's too Irish. And he was walking down Park Lane in London and he looked up and he saw the Hilton Hotel and he was like, I'm changing my name to Hilton, and that's what he did.
Hence Stephen Hilton.
Yeah.
He should be Stephen Murphy.
So your dad's creative
Yeah.
and
Oh,
flexible.
Yeah.
Where did the music interest come from?
I was obsessed with computers from like 8 onwards. That led into synthesizers. And when I discovered my first synthesizer, I dropped everything else and was just completely focused on music to a point where I wouldn't go to school. My mum would take me in the front door of school and I would go out the back door. So from 13 to 15, I was just completely obsessed with synthesizers. And then I got a record deal at 15 after working for 2 years on making music.
When I think of autism, I think of 3 things: speech, communication, and relationships. Growing up, was there any issue around speech?
But I've asked my mum and she doesn't really know. She can't remember if I had delayed speech or not. But I did have big trouble communicating with other people, to the point where I would go to the library to get books on how to relate to people.
We'll just put in red the ones that you think apply to you.
Yes,
Find joining in conversation difficult.
definitely.
Trouble relating to other people's thoughts or emotions.
Yeah.
Repetitive language.
Yeah,
I guess
as a
so.
kid, not so much now.
Find it hard to read someone's body language and emotions.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, I had to force myself to learn it from books.
What do you think about with you?
Well, let's take this morning for example. I'm up all night with the baby. I get up early and I'm making coffee. Almost done with my coffee, and then you come in and you push the button to make more coffee. And I was like, hey, I was making my coffee. To me, not a big deal, just a moment. And he looks at me and he goes, you're looking at me like you hate me. And I was so taken aback by that, because that was the last thing on my mind, that I hate you. You know what would have been awesome? Oh, I'm sorry about that. No worries.
Finding it hard to read somebody's body language and emotion.
Yeah.
Because he misread it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
And so if you know, sometimes you miss it. The only chance in hell you have of getting it right is by what she tells you.
Right.
And she's pretty honest, sometimes brutally honest.
Yes, I would agree.
And so I would go, tell me what you're thinking. Because you might not get it right. But however you interpret it,
Yeah.
you then act out of your interpretation,
Yeah.
even if it's a lie.
Yes.
If you have a negative thought and you don't question it, you believe it, and even if it's a lie, you act as if it's true.
Yeah.
And thank God you guys have this baseline of love
Yeah.
Yes.
that really helps to protect you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to really increase your skill
Yeah.
in communication.
Yeah.
And the only chance you have of reading her mind accurately is by what she says.
Right.
So I always try to tell them the truth, kindly.
Yes. Yeah.
Find that others don't understand how you're feeling and say that it's hard to know what you are thinking.
Yes. Right.
You need time by yourself. Whereas I could be around like the kids and you and my mom all day, and I thrive off that.
When I
in this
put the
car.
kids down, I like to have them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I used to think, oh my God, is he falling out of love with me? Like, is he over this family? Because the second they go down, he's out.
How about this one? Dominate conversations and provide excessive information on the topics you're interested in.
Sometimes. Like my mom and I would be sitting there like watching a movie and you'll come in and you'd be like, right, so the house, we're renovating this house and John the carpenter said that and you go off for like a long time, but it's because you're passionate about it.
Right.
I don't think it's a bad thing, it's just a thing.
Right. I definitely would provide excessive information on topics I'm interested in, but I don't know if I dominate conversations.
I've never noticed it.
Agreed.
In our conversations. I feel like it's a good
Yeah.
back and forth. How about when you were young?
Yeah, I would, because I didn't hang out with any friends really. I didn't really have any friends, so I would always be hanging out with my mum and dad, and I would be like that with them.
And if you had an interest in music or cars or something like that, did you find you
I would,
obsess on
yes,
that?
big time.
Find small talk
I find
difficult.
That, yeah, I've always found that very difficult. But I've learned to sort of, what do they call it?
Masking.
Blunt in your assessment of people and things?
Yes, in my head. So.
And to me.
Find it difficult maintaining eye contact.
Oh yeah.
When you're talking
I didn't
to
realize
someone. Does he have trouble maintaining eye contact
Yeah,
with
yes.
you? Have your own unique phrases and descriptive words.
Yes.
Big time.
Is there an example?
I call the kids I make up names. My granddad on my mum's side used to make up words all the time, and I do it so much as well.
They make up words that don't exist.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was this weird Stephen Quirk, and I loved it. He's got about 6,000 nicknames for everyone in the family.
Yeah.
And then he'll just take words that exist and put his own spin on them. And it's funny how, like, you say, what's an example, and I can't
think of one right now.
It'll come.
It'll come.
If we don't think about it, it'll come.
Yeah.
Do you have many friends outside your family?
No. None.
You make faces that others find unusual.
About that.
Wait, faces that other find unusual? I actually wouldn't say it.
No.
I don't think so. But
you make faces.
I do, yes, I do, yes.
Find it upsetting when something happens that you did not expect.
Yes.
Trouble regulating your emotional responses?
Yes, definitely.
A lot when you were a kid.
Yeah, better now. But I think that a lot of regulating emotions was by using drugs and drinking.
And I think since we've had kids, I've seen you explode it to the point where if you were upset, you wouldn't fully show it. Whereas since, obviously the stressors are high, if you're angry, I can see. When you were like 12, you had some self-injurious behaviors, headbanging, things like that. And I've seen that once with him.
Other things besides headbang?
I used to try and hang myself. I didn't do it, but I tried.
Ouch.
Yeah.
You're in a lot of pain.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a horrendous time. Yeah. And I used to try and cut my wrists as well.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that when you cut, you release endorphins.
Yeah.
And sometimes people actually get addicted.
Yeah.
It's like an opiate addiction.
Right.
And when I put them on an opiate blocker, they stop cutting because it hurts like hell and they get no reinforcement.
Right.
Bothered if things are moved or rearranged by someone?
Yeah. Like if we have a cleaner and I won't let her touch my room.
Repetitive rituals or behaviors you do on a daily basis?
Yeah.
Have an example?
I'm obsessed with listening to podcasts or audiobooks. Pretty obsessed with that. I went through a period where I was listening to like some spoken word stuff all day long, every day.
I'll always hear someone in your ear.
Yeah. I'm better now since we have kids, but I was very obsessed for a while.
Yeah.
Make noises in places where you're expected to be quiet?
I don't think so.
No.
Preference for highly specific interests or hobbies?
Yeah. Music. Yeah.
Cars.
Music and cars.
Just like Alfie. And they will sit together and watch these videos of just like a POV of a car just driving.
Difficulty multitasking?
I don't think so.
Strong reaction or no reaction to all sensory stimuli. Texture, sounds, taste, tags.
Only sounds.
It's your mom. She was like, Stephen would stand by the speaker and hear things that no one else could hear in the music. And he'd point things out to me all day long that I would have never noticed. And Who else does that? Alfie.
Yeah.
He stands by the speaker and just is fascinated by the sounds coming out.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm trying to get him to dance with me, and he's more
No,
like,
definitely.
let me.
He's taking apart the music.
Yes.
But you're skilled
Yeah.
at that, right?
Yes.
I mean, you're highly trained, so you can take it apart.
Yeah.
Where most people just see it as one.
That's it.
Right,
That's right.
yeah.
And
Like operating solo.
Big time. So when I was working in London, it was just on my own, and when I came to work with Hans, it was he has big groups of people. Say there'd be 10 people working on a movie score. We would all go off into our own studios and write our bits. I used to love that, but when we all came together, I hated that. I couldn't deal with that.
So how would you manage that?
To be honest, drugs.
Have increased empathy for people who struggle. You certainly do for Alfie.
Yeah.
I think, given all of this, yes, I think he got it from you.
Wow.
And as we work to get him better,
Yeah.
you lead the way by example.
Right.
So really working on communication. When you get a thought in your head, she's thinking this, check.
Right.
And then you teach Alfie to check.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to remember what it was like when you were his age.
Yeah.
Because he's going to trigger you. This is what happens. Whenever a child goes through an age, you remember what it was like for you.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you might start to feel irritated or anxious
Right.
or even panicky. It's because those memories of 5 are being triggered. Same for you. And if you just know it, you can separate from it.
wow, that's really profound. Because I've noticed if Alfie is struggling to regulate his emotions, that it really affects you
Yeah. It does.
in such a way.
Yeah.
Maybe you could see yourself in that.
Oh, I think that's happening a lot. And I read back through my notes.
Yeah.
Because, I saw you and you really struggled with lifelong depression.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now we have more insight into
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
Because it was hard to connect and your
Yeah.
brain worked differently.
Yeah.
But you were better. But then we could see this big stress comes along. Someone you love gets a diagnosis that's
Yeah.
serious.
Yeah.
And boom, you go down.
Yeah.
But if we keep doing the right things,
Yeah.
you'll continue to be better.
Yeah.
But every setback is an opportunity to learn what triggers the setbacks and then how do we prevent them. We are going to approach this as detectives and scientists. So if Alfie has a bad day,
Yeah.
what did he eat? Is there stress in the home?
Right.
Did he sleep? What are the triggers?
Yeah.
But we're always curious, not furious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this has given me, a lot of clarity around perhaps why it's hard for you to talk about your feelings.
Yeah.
Well, it's still a struggle, and I don't know how to handle it sometimes.
Just now, knowing he's not going to read you 100% accurately.
Yeah.
So you just have to communicate, this is what I'm thinking. And don't take it personally, because he brings a lot of good into your life.
Yeah.
If you focus on the irritating stuff, you're irritated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you focus on the amazing stuff, you feel blessed.
Like on the way here, we just didn't say 2 words to each other the entire drive, and it was an hour and a half. I wonder why you didn't. Could you tell me why you didn't?
Since yesterday, Alfie's really gone. I'm really worried about him.
See, eye contact.
Right.
It's fine.
Do you
now,
talk
but
about
don't-
it when you're worried?
No, I don't really. I sort of internalize it. It's just, it's interesting to think now, because, I don't think we had the same reaction when I realised that he was autistic before I knew what autism was. When I thought about the institution and stuff like that, my mind went there. I thought about killing myself. But I know I would never do it, because I know he needs me.
Yeah, that's right.
But it definitely crossed my mind.
Well, just because you have a thought has nothing to do with whether or not it's true.
Right.
All of us have crazy thoughts.
Yeah.
I love that you followed that thought.
Yeah.
But, well, of course I would never do
Yeah.
it because he
Yeah.
needs me.
Yeah.
One question that you should ask Laura is, what does she need?
If he's anything like you, I'm happy because you're brilliant, amazing.
And she fell in love with you and married you. And Alfie has the advantage
Yes.
his parents know, and so they can intervene.
And help and support. And I think you were always deemed as bad.
What I was just going to say, that was what I always heard when I was a kid. You're a bad kid. And now, thinking that I've probably been on the spectrum, now I realise that I wasn't bad.
So some level of forgiveness for yourself.
Yeah.
Because you probably were also medicating the shame
Yeah.
of being the bad one that was the cause of bad things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which you couldn't control.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we wouldn't shame Alfie.
No.
Because we know he can't control it.
Yeah.
But sometimes you'll be like your mother and you'll be like, bad boy, and I hear your mother in your voice when you say that.
Yeah.
No, he's just struggling.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because you guys want to be support for each other. Because it's chronically stressful. You want to, one, forgive each other for whatever's happened, and then go, okay, how can I support her in this moment? Or how can you support him in this moment? I mean, everybody brings their own baggage. His baggage is heavy.
Because I've lived through it, what he's going through, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't want him to have the same life I had.
No, but like you were treated like you were bad when really you had a disorder or a disability or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
One thing we want to be super careful of is not reinforcing difficult behavior.
No, I understand that, especially when it comes to safety or self-injurious behaviors, but I also don't believe in invalidating someone's feelings. If they're feeling overwhelmed, I will always be there to hold him. I'm not going to ignore him and let him feel unheard.
If he has a
Or-
meltdown, I walk away and you sort of...
I sit there and I make it a safe space and I say it's okay to be mad and you come to me when you're ready and that's it. Obviously, if he does anything like, hit or throw something, we say no throw, no hit. It's very stern there. To me, what's reinforcing bad behavior is he wants to watch this movie, it's not the right time. He screams, I put on the movie. That's reinforcing bad behavior. Alfie is brilliant and he is so eager to learn. He's so interested in the world around him. He's just fascinated by the world. He's sensory seeking. We thought, oh my God, is he never going to be able to step foot in a grocery store because of the lights and the sounds and the people? But he's sensory seeking, so like he loves it in Whole Foods. He's like, this is awesome, and he's just walking through the aisles. What's that? What's that? What's that?
This is working way too hard, and this is sleepy. In a healthy scan, cerebellum's really active, and everything else is sort of quiet. So it's sort of the opposite. And then if you see, this looks like an hourglass where the cerebellum on the outside is full, but on the inside, that's called the cerebellar vermis, is smaller. Sometimes it's atrophy, and that's often where social interactions is being processed in the brain.
But can I argue that we need all types of brains? That Einstein was most likely on the spectrum, Elon Musk, all these people who were... No, I know, but when you say in a healthy brain, there's more balance.
If we go neurotypical.
Yes,
right?
that's right.
We go neurotypical.
But I'm saying we need neurodivergence too.
There are actually not very many.
Right.
I would argue, because we have the traumatic brain injury for you, there's a trauma type where you see
Wow.
one part of the brain got hurt. They're just not reading social cues right because that part of the brain.
I just don't think there's any arguing that it's not genetic when it's clearly in our families. And by the way, my father is definitely on the spectrum. I mean, he would never get tested, ever. He's much more extreme, I would say, than Stephen.
Yeah.
Would you?
Yeah, reading
say?
social cues, he's terrible.
Oh, all of it. The engineer, the loner, the self-medicating.
Think of genetic vulnerability. All of us have it, and environmental triggers.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like genes load the gun, and the environmental often pull the trigger.
I believe that the environmental factors cause the regression.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Do you have a sense of what environmental factors?
I can't say. I believe that Alfie was born autistic. I believe it's in our families, it's in our genes. So was Stephen, so was my father, so was his grandpa. And I believe we need neurodivergent, different brains. I actually like my ADHD brain, even though I struggle in a lot of areas. I'm not gonna lie. I also am very spontaneous and creative, and it's served me well.
It works for you in many ways.
Yes.
And when it
yes.
doesn't, then we should just work on it.
Yeah, there have been days where I've gone, man, if I, took something, and I do take the supplements, the Happy Saffron and Focus and Energy, these natural supplements, I love that. And if it ever got too much, I would consider, but it hasn't yet, and it's working for me, so I'm gonna go with it. I just made a great comedy sketch around ADHD because there's a lot of funny shit that goes along with it. But what the hell was I talking about? Is this an ADHD thing?
I think we're talking about at what
Alfie.
point do you intervene?
Well, and you were saying what environmental factor do you think caused the regression? And that I just don't know. When we eliminated gluten, right when you said it, you said, just take out gluten. I was like, okay, like that's gonna do anything. Very skeptical, but also desperate because our son was slipping away from us, who once said mama and dada and looked at us and smiled at us, was no longer looking at us, was no longer saying our names, was just like, looked scared and like we were losing him.
Yeah.
And so we just were like, fuck it, let's take out gluten. Like, what's the worst that could happen? So we got the gluten-free bread, and within like a week, the boy starts looking at us again. Within maybe 2 weeks, mama, 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 then mama go, then mama go with me. Just beautiful language coming out of him, looking at us, laughing again. You could see the wheels spinning. You could just see his brain working again.
Food matters.
Yeah, and something was blocking him to the point where he was just like around the house going like that. When at one point he was saying, Gamma, Mama, Dada, shoes, all the things. They all went away. Fully thank you for that, because we called you right away. Like, we think perhaps he's on the spectrum. You're born with it, but you could...
The right attitude is, okay, he's got this.
Yeah.
Clearly there's a genetic vulnerability.
Yeah.
And we are going to intervene.
Yeah.
Early.
But I don't think you can go, though, from autistic to not. I think you can be so high functioning that no one would ever know, and you would be indistinguishable from a neurotypical person. But you'll still always have that brain that has special interests in that different type of brain. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you're kind of born with this thing, and exacerbate it, you can make it worse, but you're never just going to be normal, nor would you want to be normal. That's what I think. What do you think?
Well, let's take ADD, for example.
Yeah, let's take it.
It's clearly a genetic problem.
That's right.
Runs in family.
Yeah.
But there are clearly things we can do to make it worse. You can drink, you can smoke pot, you can eat bad food. All of those things will make it. I had 2 daughters that have ADD. One of them was the hyperactive one. She's the one that got me thrown out of church. The other one was never hyperactive, couldn't focus.
That was me.
And she hated herself. She said, I'll never be as smart as my friends.
That's me.
And when I scanned her brain was actually very similar to yours.
Don't doubt it.
And when I put her on a little bit of a stimulant, because I couldn't stand how much she hated herself.
Yeah.
The next grading period, straight A's. First time in her life. Because I just gave her access to her own brain.
Whereas I used cocaine.
I'm better at drugs than you.
I think so.
The goal is never medicine or no medicine.
Yeah.
With Alfie, it's not medicine or no medicine. But the goal is his best function.
Yeah.
Creating a life he loves.
Yeah, and understands who he is and his strengths and his challenges, and we'll be there to support him. I think it just bothers me when people just say like autism is all bad, because I don't believe that. And Stephen with his music, like, yes, you struggled socially and we're misunderstood, and I really never want that for Alfie, and I don't think he will be. He's not going to be.
Yeah.
The most loving thing you can do for him is love each other.
Yeah.
So I have a question. If Elon Musk, because you said in your opinion that you don't think he's even mild.
He's not mine. I sat next to him at dinner.
Okay.
And I think, 5 of his children are autistic?
What level is Stephen? Mild, moderate, severe?
Moderate.
moderate.
Wow. That makes me feel really good. I know why I struggled so much.
Now with all
My
this
father.
red, moderate fits.
And it actually also makes me think that I can identify with Alfie.
Like when you were having a meltdown, when you felt out of control, were you doing it to be controversial, or were you doing it because you genuinely couldn't control?
I couldn't control it.
So don't you think that's Alfie?
Yeah, I know that's
So,
Alfie.
you know, eye contact.
No, I was just thinking.
So
So-
nice to see you both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been very
Yeah.
eye-opening.
Amazing.
Yay,
Wow.
go.
Shall we schedule it? Shall we schedule
Yeah.
the next one?
Let's
I
do
would
it.
love that.
Really nice to see you again.